Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last 7 days, I've been driving the 2025 Toyota Prius Nightshade. Up front is a 2.0 liter inline 4, as well as a hybrid system, and down below is an eCVT. Now, I am super excited to be making this video because, as I mentioned, I've been driving it for the last week. I've been getting quite the number of looks due to this vehicle's color palette, but I think that the Prius is a fantastic automobile. It has continued to be wonderful, and I'm excited to share with you why that is. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that hybrid drivetrain under the hood. Well, there are two powertrains offered here for the Prius Prime and the standard Prius. This is the standard inline 4 non-plug-in hybrid. And really the only advantage this has over the Prime is the price point. The Prime, the plug-in, is going to be more expensive. However, I've been averaging 46.7 miles to the gallon, and I am not being nice to this thing. I've done a lot of highway driving. I have been late quite a bit this week, and so I could definitely push that well over 50 without even trying. And so that is a huge benefit. It will allow you to drive in electric mode at some times, but the Prius Prime is going to offer a lot more EV driving. Like I said, paired to it is an eCVT. I like Toyota's eCVTs. I think they work well, and it's good in this application. And last but not least, the Prius is, of course, front-wheel drive. However, you could get them in all-wheel drive. How does it feel to drive the Prius XSE Nightshade? Well, it's actually a really nice driving experience. It's relatively sporty, all things considered. The fact that it's a Prius, it will get up and go when you need it to, and on the highway, it doesn't feel underpowered. It doesn't feel like I have to fight tooth and nail just to get around a Hyundai Accent. No, I can pass Hyundai Accents all day long, and that is a nice thing to see. The windshield is pretty far out, so that does give you a lot bigger of a driving feel than the actual footprint of the Prius. The Prius isn't actually that big, but because the windshield is so far away, it might feel that way. The ride quality's on par with its competitors. It's a compact, there's no real emphasis on ride quality, so it's not great, but again, if you buy a Mazda 3, it's gonna be similar. If you buy a Corolla, it's gonna be similar. If you buy a Honda Civic, it's gonna be similar, so nothing really new there. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, up in front of me, way far away, is my digital gauge cluster. I like the position of this. It does kind of feel like a spaceship. However, I think Toyota's gauge clusters as of recent have been kind of clustered. A lot to look at. It does give you a lot of information, which is, of course, fantastic to have in a car, but it can sometimes be a little overwhelming. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have our pages and selectors for that gauge cluster screen, volume and voice commands, and off to the right we have our adaptive cruise, skip track, and mode buttons. Off to the left we do have a climate control vent, automatic high beams, windshield defrost, and heated steering wheel, and moving on to the door we have our power mirrors, power locks, and power windows. Moving into the center we get our giant infotainment display. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as, of course, it has the typical Toyota energy flow system. This will tell you when the engine is on, when it's recharging the battery, when the electric motor is working, and for a geek like me, it's really fun to watch while driving. The bass is actually pretty good. The treble is a little tinny, a little echoey. It almost sounds a little nasally, like allergy season is around the corner, which it is here in Chicago, so I understand that, I guess. Down below, we have the climate vents, hazard switch, and the on-off button, and then we get this thin blue light on the interior. Now, this is a nice accented piece. However, it actually does serve a function. If you're at a stoplight and the vehicle in front of you starts moving, this light bar actually flashes to let you know that the person in front of you has moved. Then we get our climate controls, heated seats, and auto climate. However, it is only single dual zone climate. Equivalent vehicles for the price, like the Mazda 3, does have standard dual zone climate. The Civics have dual zone climate when you climb up the trim levels. This XSE Prius for almost $35,000 does not have dual zone climate. Down below, we do have 2 USB-Cs and a 12-volt outlet, and a little cubby that opens up to a hashtag hidden compartment. Very millennial of Toyota to put hashtags on a vehicle. But then we have cup holders. We'll do a big freaking bottle test as we tested last year. Unfortunately, it fails. And then we get the typical Prius shifter. The shifter actually debuted in the Prius back in the mid-2000s, and it has spread to other Toyota and Lexus products, but the Prius did it first. We have our drive mode select for custom, normal, sport, and eco. EV mode, power parking brake, auto holding brake, and traction control off. And off to the right, we have this cubby for a wireless charger. So I think this is a great use of space. The wireless charger is actually tucked away into this little pocket. Then we do get a center console with 2 more USB-Cs, and then we have the seats. The seats are very comfortable. I've enjoyed them. They're heated, and the driver's seat is power. However, the passenger seat is heated, but manual. Now, before we talk about the back seats, there is one interior feature I really want to talk about, and that is the $375 optional built-in dash camera. Now, I love that they build this in because my biggest gripe with dash cameras is all of the cords that run down. They always look tacky. They always fall off the windshield when you need them the most. This is built in and a factory option from Toyota. And normally, I don't really care that much about these, but it has actually been really helpful this week. First of all, I saw a Chevy Montana on the highway. That is a Mexican market vehicle all the way up here in Illinois. So I was able to capture that using the dash cam. I also captured this near miss last night when I was coming home. Wouldn't have gotten that without the optional dash cam. And for the first time in my adult life, Chicago had a dust storm, which was incredible to see in person, but I actually was able to capture it on the dash camera, what it was like to drive through a dust storm. And that's why in some of the clips, this Prius is exceedingly dirty. But most of the shots were taken before the dust storm, but very, very cool to see. That was all captured with that dash cam. But moving out of the front of the interior, let's hop in back and do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the Toyota Prius, and a couple of things to note. First of all, this isn't the most spacious backseat. However, my seat is a little bit far back than it maybe normally would have been, so I could be gracious and move the seat up. I'm also 5'11", not a small guy, and the fact that I fit okay should be reason enough to say, yeah, it's a good enough back seat. I don't get any climate vents. I would have liked that, but I do get 2 USB-C chargers, so that's now 6 USB-Cs within my line of sight, so charging is not an issue. We also do get a center console, 2 cup holders in there, but again, would have liked to have seen climate vents. I don't get any in the B pillars, so it might get a little toasty back here on a summer drive as the engine starts up. I do want to say one downside I forgot until I was sitting back here is that the switch over from the engine turning on to the battery can sometimes jolt the car just a little bit. It's not super smooth in its transition. During driving, you're not going to notice this, but sometimes when you're at a stoplight, you'll be sitting there and it'll, you know, like when the engine starts to, as it's kind of doing now. So it's just recharging the battery, so it's totally normal, but it's just a little bit aggressive. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Prius, button here, pop it up like that, and it is a hatchback, which is very, very nice, and you do have pretty ample amounts of room in the back. You can pull this up. You do get some very bright white storage down there, but nothing too crazy, of course, because it does have the hybrid battery. Overall, you do have some tie downs up at the front, but no 12-volt outlet or anything like that found in the trunk. Maybe that's what that block-off plate would be for, but not here in the Prius. Super easy to put up and down, handle here. There you go. I do have to say, one thing that's overlooked with this is that they actually don't use the horn when you lock it or unlock it. It's actually quite the pleasant sound. Take a listen. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and it is finished in mustard. That is not me exclaiming that. Toyota internally has named this color mustard. Now, I think it's kind of funny that they put this on the Nightshade edition of the Prius, which is the blackout package. So you get the black emblems, darker accents, darker wheels, and yet they painted it in probably the brightest color Toyota's done in the last decade and a half. Overall, I really like the exterior look of the Prius. I think it looks handsome. I think it looks chiseled. I think it looks really, really nice. And a lot of people that I've shown this car to said, "That's really a Prius?" And I said, yeah, it's a little different than what you might remember it as. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Prius XSE Nightshade in mustard yellow for the last 7 days? Well, I've really enjoyed the Prius. I actually really, really like this product. I might not have liked it as much in the past, but I've grown up and matured and realized that this is one of the most perfect vehicles you can buy. It has good interior space, it has great features, and the fuel economy is just nothing you can beat. Upper 40s when beating on this thing is absolutely amazing. I can't imagine what it would be like to hypermile. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to do so during my loan with this vehicle like I did with the Corolla Hybrid, which I'll link at the end of this video. The one thing that really stuck out to me, when I opened up the rear tailgate, I noticed something, that they have a little badge that says Hybrid Reborn. I assume what that's alluding to is the fact that they made the Prius actually handsome for once, and it went from a punchline to a legitimate consideration. And I feel like saying Hybrid Reborn is a little bit unfair, because what they really did is they just made the technology that they already had more handsome and more attractive. All Toyota did was have that montage in the rom-com where they take the girl's glasses off and put her hair down and give her a nice blouse, and now suddenly she's the most attractive girl in town. That's all they did with this. You wouldn't say that that actress was reborn, had a makeover. They gave the Prius a makeover. It still has the amazing core parts that made the Prius wonderful for the last several generations and last 20 plus years. The hybrid drivetrain is reliable, it's wonderful, and efficient. All the features in here are everything that you need and nothing that you don't. Maybe you can consider heated seats excessive, but here in Chicago during the winter, a heated seat almost feels like a life support system. I think you do get your money's worth, and you're gonna get that money back at the pump because you're gonna stop there so little. Cars are getting expensive these days, you can't deny that, but so in terms of its competition, I think that that's a pretty good number. It's affordable, and that efficiency can't be touched by the vehicles around it, by other vehicles in its segment and at its price point. This is just such a good car. If you don't care about lap times, if you don't care about canyon carving, if you don't care about, well, clearly off-roading, this is a great car for you. If you're just a human being that has other interests outside of cars, get a Prius. Just get a Prius. They're so good, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Toyota for letting me borrow their Prius for the last 7 days and experience the glory that it is. Huge thank you to Drive Shop for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle, and of course, the Midwestern Automotive Media Association. But I also forgot, we do have, there is a bee. There is a bee, like right here, and I thought he was on the inside. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I promise I'm a manly man. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.